The Last Night at Millionaire's Row. What really happened before the demolition? It was September 1925, a crisp autumn evening in Manhattan, when the grand halls of the Cornelius Vanderbilt II mansion at First West 57th Street stood silent for the last time. The air hung heavy with the faint scent of polished marble and faded beeswax, remnants of a bygone era's opulence. Outside, the hum of Model T Fords and the clamour of construction cranes encroached on Fifth Avenue, where once horse-drawn carriages ferried the elite. Inside, the 137-room behemoth, spanning an entire city block with its French chateau facade of brick and limestone, echoed only with the footsteps of a skeletal staff, packing away crystal chandeliers and gilded mirrors that had witnessed lavish balls and whispered scandals. This was Millionaire's Row, the glittering stretch of Fifth Avenue from 59th to 78th Street, home to the Vanderbilts, Astors, and other titans of the Gilded Age, where fortunes built on railroads and steel manifested in architectural excess. Yet on this final night, as shadows lengthened across the grand salon, capable of hosting 1,000 guests, the mansion faced its doom. Demolition crews poised to raze it the next morning, erasing a symbol of American ambition to make way for a department store. Contrast this with the mansion's heyday in the 1890s, when Cornelius Vanderbilt Sen and his wife Alice hosted soirees amid imported cornstone halls and Renaissance tapestries, their wealth insulating them from the teeming tenements just blocks away. Built at a staggering cost of over $5 million, equivalent to more than $150 million today, the home boasted innovations like electric lighting and a private elevator, feats of engineering that masked the grueling labour of hundreds of immigrant workers who toiled for meagre wages. But beneath the veneer of prosperity lurked untold stories: the exhaustion of servants maintaining its vast operations, the financial strains that plagued even the richest families, and the scandals that hastened decline. What drove these moguls to erect such monuments, only to see them crumble? And what hidden truths emerged on that last night, as forgotten letters and artefacts surfaced amid the packing crates? This documentary uncovers the real events leading to the end of Millionaire's Row, revealing the human costs, architectural marvels, and societal shifts that doomed these palaces. At its heart lies a question: was this demolition merely the fall of stone and mortar, or the collapse of an American dream built on inequality? Chapter 1. The Twilight of Grandeur. September 28th, 1925. Dusk settles over Manhattan like a velvet curtain, and the Cornelius Vanderbilt II mansion at 1 West 57th Street exhales its final breath of opulence. Moonlight slices through the 40-foot-high stained glass skylight in the grand salon, scattering fractured rubies and sapphires across Italian marble floors that once trembled beneath the waltz of 1,000 guests. The air smells of dust and dying lilies. A single chandelier, 1,200 electric bulbs, each hand-cut crystal prism worth more than a stenographer's yearly wage, swings gently, though no hand disturbs it. Outside, demolition cranes loom like iron vultures along Fifth Avenue. Tomorrow, wrecking balls will bite into the Indiana limestone facade. Tonight, the largest private residence ever built in New York City stands empty, save for three figures, moving through its 137 rooms like ghosts in a mausoleum. Listen, the mansion still speaks. In the service corridors beneath the grand staircase, the copper pipes tick as they cool, a metallic heartbeat slowing to silence. Upstairs, in the Gothic library where Cornelius Vanderbilt II once signed railroad contracts worth millions, a forgotten ledger lies open to a page dated 1893. Paid to masons, $1.25 per day. The ink has browned, but the numbers burn. 50,000 square feet of palace, built for $5.2 million, or $162 million in today's currency, raised by men who earned less in a month than the Vanderbilts spent on one Parisian gown. The contradiction is carved into every cornice and capital. This was a monument to excess, erected on the bent backs of the invisible. Step into the grand salon. 45 feet wide, 60 feet long, its walls panelled in cornstone shipped from Normandy in 112 crates. The fireplace alone, carved from a single block of Numidian marble, cost $50,000. Above it hangs a tapestry commissioned from the Gobelins manufactory in Paris, depicting the triumph of Alexander the Great. Alexander never slept here. But Cornelius Vanderbilt II did, in a Renaissance-style bed framed in gold leaf, while 200 blocks south, children scavenged coal from the gutters of Hell's Kitchen. The mansion's scale defies comprehension. 5 stories above ground, 2 below, with a private railroad siding beneath 58th Street where coal cars once delivered fuel directly to the boilers. 40 servants' bedrooms, 16 bathrooms, each with gold-plated fixtures, a wine cellar holding 12,000 bottles. And yet, on this final night, the only sound is the creak of floorboards under the boots of a caretaker named Patrick O'Rourke, who has worked here for 33 years and earns $45 a month, stand at the top of the grand staircase. The banister, hand-carved mahogany from Honduras, spirals down 3 stories like the inside of a nautilus shell. In 1894, Alice Vanderbilt descended these stairs in a gown embroidered with 3,000 pearls, her train carried by 2 footmen. Tonight the same stairs are stacked with crates labelled "To Storage, Bergdorf Goodman." The department store that will replace the mansion has already leased the land. Progress, they call it. The future, they say, but progress smells like sawdust and wet plaster, and the future is a 22-story retail palace where debutantes will buy silk stockings instead of hosting charity balls for orphanages. Walk west past the music room, where Enrico Caruso once sang for 300 guests, past the Moorish smoking room with its onyx fountain and mother-of-pearl inlay. The fountain is dry now, its basin cracked. In the ballroom, 70 feet by 50 feet, with a ceiling painted by Pierre-Victor Gallon to mimic the sky at Versailles, the parquet floor is scarred by furniture dollies. A single ballroom slipper, white satin with a pearl button, lies abandoned near the musician's gallery. Whose foot wore it? A Vanderbilt daughter? A duchess from Europe? The slipper is size 5 childlike, a relic of innocence in a house built on ruthless ambition. Downstairs in the sub-basement, the mansion's mechanical heart lies cold. 2 coal-fired boilers, each the size of a city bus, once generated steam heat for 400 radiators. The electrical plant, installed in 1893, one of the first private systems in America, could power a small town. Now the dynamos are silent, their copper windings stripped by salvagers. The elevator cage, gilded and mirrored, hangs motionless between floors. Its cables, thick as a man's wrist, were cut this morning. The mansion is being dismantled from the inside out, like a body prepared for burial. But the true demolition began long before the cranes arrived. It started in 1914 when Cornelius Vanderbilt II died of a cerebral hemorrhage at age 70, leaving an estate of $72 million, $2.1 billion today, but saddled with debts. It accelerated in 1920 when inheritance taxes devoured 40% of the fortune. By 1923, Alice Vanderbilt, widowed and aging, could no longer afford the $200,000 annual operating cost. The staff dwindled from 42 to 8. The gardens, once tended by 12 gardeners, grew wild with weeds. The mansion became a beautiful corpse, too expensive to maintain, too historic to ignore, too valuable to save. Tonight, as Patrick O'Rourke locks the service gate for the last time, a reporter from the New York Times waits on the sidewalk. "Any treasures left inside?" he asks. Patrick hesitates, then pulls a small object from his pocket, a brass button stamped with the Vanderbilt crest. "This," he says, "is all that's left for the likes of me." The reporter scribbles it down. Tomorrow the headline will read, "Vanderbilt Palace falls to make way for progress." No mention of Patrick. No mention of the 400 stonemasons, 200 carpenters, 150 plumbers, or the Irish immigrant girl who polished the silver until her fingers bled. Their stories are packed away with the tapestries, labelled miscellaneous. Yet something stirs in the shadows. In the attic, beneath a pile of discarded ledgers, lies a leather-bound journal. Its pages, written in a maid's careful script, detail the mansion's final season. The night the boiler exploded, scalding 2 engineers. The afternoon Alice Vanderbilt wept in the conservatory because the orchids had died. The morning a footman was fired for stealing a single silver spoon. The journal ends on September 27th, 1925. They say the house is cursed, I say it's tired. Tomorrow, it rests. This is where our story begins, not with the swing of the wrecking ball, but with the hush before it. Over the next chapters, we will resurrect the mansion room by room, worker by worker, scandal by scandal. We will follow Cornelius Vanderbilt II from the railroad yards of New York to the Chateau of France, tracing the ambition that built this palace and the hubris that doomed it. We will descend into the sub-basements, where immigrant labourers toiled in 120-degree heat, and ascend to the rooftops, where debutantes danced under electric stars. We will uncover the financial ledgers that reveal the true cost of grandeur, and the human stories that prove no fortune is unbreakable. The mansion is gone now, replaced by Bergdorf Goodman's gleaming towers. But its foundations remain beneath the sales floors, its ghosts in the marble dust that still clings to the air. What really happened in the final months, weeks, hours before demolition? Who profited from its fall? Who mourned it? And what does its erasure say about a nation that worships wealth one century and discards it the next? The answers lie in the cracks between the marble slabs, in the ink of forgotten letters, in the memories of those who served and those who ruled. Turn the page. The last night is just beginning. Chapter 2. The Commodore's Grandson and the Weight of a Name. The year is 1843. A baby's cry echoes through a modest brick house on Staten Island, sharp as the whistle of the ferry that will one day bear his family's name. Cornelius Vanderbilt II, known to the world as Neely, enters a dynasty already forged in iron and audacity. His grandfather, the original Cornelius, nicknamed the Commodore, has just wrested control of the Staten Island ferry from rivals using nothing more than a faster boat and a sharper tongue. By the time Neely draws breath, the Commodore's fortune stands at $11 million, $400 million today, and his eyes are fixed on the steel ribbons that will stitch the continent together. Fast forward 40 years. It is 1883, and Neely, now 40, stands on the windswept corner of 57th Street and 5th Avenue, coat flapping like a battle standard. The site is raw earth and broken cobblestones, a full city block purchased for $1.2 million, $36 million today, from the estate of William H. Vanderbilt. His own father, dead 2 years earlier, of a stroke at age 64. Neely's inheritance is $60 million in railroad stock, but the money is not enough. He wants permanence. He wants to silence the whispers that he's merely the pale echo of a greater man. He wants a house that will outlast empires. Neely is no swashbuckling ferry captain. He is a Yale-educated Episcopalian with a banker's precision and a collector's obsession. His diaries, preserved at the New York Historical Society, reveal a man who catalogued every expense, from the modern rate he paid to a newsboy to the $75,000 wired to Paris for a single tapestry. Yet beneath the ledger entries pulses a fierce insecurity. "They say I am soft," he writes in 1885. "I will build them a fortress of stone and prove them wrong." The location is deliberate. 5th Avenue north of 51st Street is still semi-rural in 1880. Goat paths, market gardens, the occasional shanty of an Irish squatter. But Neely sees the future. Central Park's southern gate lies 3 blocks north. The Plaza Hotel will rise across the street in 1907. He purchases the entire block between 57th and 58th Streets, 200 feet of frontage on 5th Avenue, 300 feet deep to the west. The deed is signed on March 15, 1883 at 2:17 p.m. Neely notes the exact minute. The land alone cost more than the entire annual budget of the city of New York in 1850. Why here? Geography is destiny. The site sits atop a granite shelf, stable enough for the heaviest limestone walls. A natural spring beneath 58th Street will supply the boilers. And psychologically, the address is perfect. Far enough north to escape the soot of the Vanderbilt Railroad yards at 42nd Street, close enough to Grand Central to remind the world who owns the rails. Neely sketches the footprint in charcoal on butcher paper. A U-shaped palace wrapping around a central courtyard, 130 feet wide, 150 feet deep, 5 stories tall. The drawing is labelled, in his neat hand, Chateau de Vanderbilt. Economic context is everything. The Gilded Age is at its zenith. Between 1870 and 1900, the United States lays 170,000 miles of railroad track, enough to circle the globe 7 times. The New York Central, under Vanderbilt control, hauls 40% of the nation's freight. Neely's personal income, In 1888, $4.2 million, $130 million today, from dividends alone. His tax bill that year, $1,800. The disparity is staggering. While Neely debates whether to import pink granite from Scotland or red sandstone from Connecticut, 12,000 children labour in New York tenements for 10 cents a day. Socially, the mansion is a gauntlet thrown at the Astors. John Jacob Astor IV, Neely's cousin by marriage, is planning a rival palace at 65th Street. The press dubs it the Battle of the Chateaus. Neely ups the ante. He hires not one but 3 architectural firms: George B. Post for structure, Richard Morris Hunt for interiors, and the Paris firm of Georges Charpentier Frères for ornament. The collaboration is unprecedented. Post, a structural genius, designs a steel skeleton, the first in a private residence, capable of supporting 40-foot cantilevers. Hunt, fresh from designing the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty, insists on French Renaissance detailing. Charpentier ships entire rooms from dismantled Loire Valley castles. Neely's ambition has a darker edge. In 1877, at age 34, he suffered a nervous collapse after a stock manipulation scandal. Doctors prescribed rest in Europe. He returned with sketches of Versailles and a determination to outdo it. His wife, Alice of the South Carolina Gwynns, is his partner in grandeur. She is 38, devout and fiercely protective of the Vanderbilt name. Together they conceive a house that will serve 3 purposes: residence, museum, and fortress. The fortress part is literal. Neely installs a vault in the sub-basement with a combination lock only he and Alice know. Inside, 20 million in bearer bonds, a revolver, and a single photograph of his grandfather scowling. The economic context shifts beneath them. By 1893, the panic hits. Banks fail. Railroads teeter. Neely's income drops 30%, yet construction continues. He sells 5,000 shares of New York Central at a loss to meet payroll. The contradiction is brutal. The richer the house becomes, the poorer its builder grows on paper. But Neely presses on. A Vanderbilt does not retreat. He tells the New York world. The quote will haunt him. By 1889, the shell is up. The facade rises 85 feet above the sidewalk, its mansard roof capped in slate from Mons, Belgium. The courtyard gate, wrought iron gilded with 24-carat gold leaf, weighs 3 tons and requires 2 men to open. Neely stands beneath it on a February morning, breath fogging in the cold, and watches the first crate of Caen stone arrive. The bill of lading reads, 112 crates, 1,400 tons, shipped via SS La Bourgogne, Le Havre to New York. The stone is the same used in Westminster Abbey. Neely runs his gloved hand over a block. It is cold, unyielding, eternal. This is the vision, a house that will make the Astors blink, the press gasp, and history pause. But visions are built by human hands, and those hands are already bleeding. Chapter 3. Forged in Steel and Sweat, March Warren, 1890. Dawn breaks over 57th Street in a sulphur haze, and the Vanderbilt site roars awake. Steam winches shriek like banshees. A 12-ton derrick swings a limestone block the size of a carriage into place, 60 feet above the sidewalk. Below, foremen bark orders in 4 languages. The steel skeleton, 2,400 tons of Bethlehem beams, riveted with 180,000 hand-driven bolts, already climbs past the 3rd floor. This is not construction. It is industrial warfare against gravity, weather, and time. George B. Post, the structural engineer, stands on a plank catwalk, coat flapping, stopwatch in hand. He has calculated every load to the pound. The mansion's cantilevered ballroom will jut 18 feet over the courtyard without a single interior column. To achieve this, Post specifies Carnegie steel, I-beams 24 inches deep, each stamped NYC and HRRR, Vanderbilt. A quiet flex of family ownership. The beams arrive by rail siding beneath 58th Street, unloaded at night to avoid blocking traffic. Cost: $214,000 for steel alone, $6.6 million today. Material sourcing is a global scavenger hunt. Indiana limestone, quarried near Bedford, cut to templates in Vermont, arrives in 3,200 numbered blocks. Each block is hoisted by a guide derrick powered by a 40-horsepower steam engine that burns 2,129 tons of coal daily. The cornerstone for interiors crosses the Atlantic in the hold of the SS City of Paris, insured for $1.2 million, when a crate cracks open on the docks, revealing a carved capital of acanthus leaves. Dock workers pause mid-sentence. Even longshoremen know this is no ordinary cargo. Labour is the hidden engine. The workforce peaks at 612 men in July 1891. Breakdown: 285 masons, mostly Italian, 142 carpenters, Irish and German, 98 ironworkers, American-born unionised, 47 plumbers, 40 electricians. Wages: masons $3.50, $4 per 10-hour day. Labourers $1.75. Cornelius Vanderbilt's daily dividend income during construction: $11,500. The math is merciless. One mason would need to work 3,286 days, 9 years, to earn what Neely makes before breakfast. Names surface in payroll ledgers at the New York Historical Society. Giovanni Rossi, 32, from Lucca, earns $3.75 daily laying brick. He sends $2 home to a village still rebuilding after the 1884 earthquake. Patrick McCafferty, 28, Dublin-born carpenter, loses 2 fingers to a circular saw on June 12, 1891. The company doctor amputates on site with ether and a hacksaw. Compensation: $25 and a bottle of whiskey. Lars Olsen, 25, Norwegian ironworker, rivets high steel without a net. His diary, later donated by his granddaughter, records vertigo so severe he vomits over the side at 70 feet, then climbs back up because the foreman docks half a day for weakness. Conditions are brutal. Summer temperatures inside the steel frame hit 115 degrees. Men drink from a single water barrel, dipping tin cups into murky liquid laced with sawdust. Winter brings frostbite. In January 1892, a blizzard stalls work for 9 days, and 47 labourers are laid off without pay. Safety is an afterthought. Falls claimed 3 lives. Antonio Moretti, 41, plummets from the 4th floor scaffold when a plank snaps. Thomas O'Leary, 19, is struck by a falling hod of mortar. Hans Becker, 35, electrocutes himself on a temporary power line. Each death merits a single line in the site log. Accident, man killed, work resumes. Technical innovations abound. Post installs a temporary narrow-gauge railroad inside the courtyard to move stone. Electric arc lights, powered by a 25-kilowatt dynamo in the sub-basement, allow night shifts, doubling progress, but tripling accidents. The plumbing system is revolutionary. 42 bathrooms, 16 kitchens, 400 radiators fed by 2 500-gallon boilers. Copper piping totals 28 miles. Each joint is hand-soldered with lead wiped smooth as glass. The electrical plant, only 200 incandescent bulbs, 40 arc lamps, 12 motors, requires 14 miles of wire insulated with gutta percha. Westinghouse supplies the dynamos. Edison's men argue over patents on the doorstep. Delays plague the timeline. The original completion date, December 1891, slips to October 1893. Causes: a mason's strike in spring 1891, demanding an 8-hour day, denied. A steel shortage when Carnegie diverts beams to the Chicago World's Fair. A smallpox outbreak in the Italian Quarter that quarantines 42 workers. Niley fumes in telegrams. Every day lost is $1,800 in interest. He refuses to slow the pace. The final cost balloons to $5.2 million, $162 million today, $1.8 million over budget. Yet beauty emerges from chaos. On August 15, 1892, the mansard roof is capped. Slate tiles, each 18 by 12 inches, hand-split in Mons, Belgium, are laid in a diamond pattern, secured with copper nails that will never rust. The central tower rises 102 feet above the sidewalk, crowned by a gilded weather vane in the shape of a locomotive. From the street, the facade is a cliff of limestone and brick, 200 feet wide, pierced by 87 windows framed in carved garlands. Passers-by stop and stare. Children sell postcards for a penny. Vanderbilt's Folly, largest house in America. Inside, the transformation accelerates. Richard Morris Hunt's interiors take shape. The Grand Salon's ceiling, painted by Pierre-Victor Galland, is hoisted in sections, each panel 20 feet long, depicting the 4 seasons in trompe-l'oeil. The Gothic library's oak panelling arrives from England in 40 crates, each plank numbered to match a full-scale drawing pinned to the wall. The ballroom floor, maple, walnut, and cherry inlaid in a sunburst pattern, is laid by a crew of French artisans who speak no English and work to the rhythm of a hummed waltz. By September 1893, the mansion is habitable, though finishing continues for 2 more years. Neely and Alice move in on October 1st, bringing 38 trunks, 14 servants, and a crate marked Fragile Sèvres porcelain, handle with prayer. The first night they dine alone in the state dining room, 70 feet long, seating 120 beneath a chandelier that weighs 2 tons and cost $45,000. Alice lights a single candle. The flame flickers across gilded walls and empty chairs. "It is too large," she whispers. Neely replies, "It is exactly large enough." The house is complete, but the men who built it are already scattering. Some to new jobs, some to hospitals, some to graves. Their legacy is invisible. The perfect alignment of a cornice, the seamless joint in a marble stair, the rivet that will hold for a century. Giovanni Rossi will die in 1918, forgotten. Patrick McCafferty will lose his pension when the Vanderbilts sell. Lars Olsen will father 6 children who never learn their father walked the sky. The palace stands, but its foundations are stained with more than mortar. Chapter 4. The Golden Period, January 15th, 1894. 8 o'clock strikes from the tower clock, and the Vanderbilt mansion ignites. Every one of the 200 bulbs in the Grand Salon blazes at full wattage, a constellation compressed into crystal. Outside, snow falls in soft silence, but inside the air is thick with the perfume of 3,000 hothouse roses flown in from Nice. The orchestra, 40 pieces under the baton of Victor Herbert, launches into Strauss's Blue. Danube. 750 guests swirl across the parquet in a kaleidoscope of diamonds and satin. This is the housewarming ball, the social coronation of Cornelius and Alice Vanderbilt, and the mansion performs like a perfectly tuned instrument. The evening begins at the Porte Cochere on 58th Street. Carriages, 23 in the first hour alone, disgorge fur-swathed figures onto a crimson runner 120 feet long. Footmen in scarlet livery with gold braids snap open doors. Valets whisk away sable cloaks to a cloakroom staffed by 6. Each guest receives a numbered brass token shaped like a locomotive. The tokens are later redeemed for favours. Ladies draw silk fans painted by Tiffany. Gentlemen pocket solid gold cigar cutters engraved CV2. Cost of favours, $18,000. Inside, the hierarchy is absolute. The grand staircase, 42 marble steps, each 18 inches deep, serves as theatre. Alice descends at 8:17 p.m. precisely, in a gown of ivory duchesse satin, embroidered with seed pearls and diamonds. The train, 12 feet long, is carried by 2 pages in white knee breeches. Cornelius follows in white tie and the ribbon of the Legion of Honour, recently awarded for railroad investments in France. The orchestra pauses mid-phrase. 1,500 eyes turn upward. A photographer's magnesium flash pops, immortalising the moment. The negative will sell 40,000 postcards by spring. The ballroom swallows the crowd. 70 feet by 50, its ceiling soars 35 feet to Galland's painted sky. Dawn on one end, midnight on the other. 8 chandeliers, each with 180 bulbs, descend on silent chains to be lit by a hidden electrician. The floor, maple, walnut, cherry inlaid in radiating rays, gleams like polished amber. Couples waltz in perfect 3/4 time. The sprung floor absorbs every heel click, producing a soft, continuous whisper. At 10:30, the orchestra shifts to a gallop. Laughter rises like champagne bubbles. No one notices the faint tremor in the parquet, steel girders flexing under 400 and dancing bodies. Behind the scenes, the mansion is a factory in motion. 42 permanent staff swell to 90 for the night. In the sub-basement kitchen, 60 feet long, tiled in white subway brick, Chef Prosper Sals commands a brigade of 14. 6 coal ranges burn at 600 degrees. Copper pots the size of bathtubs simmer consommé for 800. Oysters, 12,000 Malpeques on ice, arrive by private railcar from Long Island. Caviar, 120 pounds beluga, spooned from crystal bowls onto silver salvers. Champagne, 100 bottles of 1884 Veuve Clicquot, chilled in zinc tubs filled with Hudson River ice. The ice alone costs $400. It will melt by dawn. Service corridors snake like arteries behind the public rooms. Dumbwaiters, 4 of them, each powered by a 2-horsepower electric motor, rise and fall in ceaseless rhythm. A footman in the pantry loads a tray, 12 coupes, each with a single orchid floating in champagne. The dumbwaiter ascends to the mezzanine. A maid, in black bombazine with starched apron, unloads it, wipes condensation and glides into the ballroom. Total time from kitchen to guest, 47 seconds. The system is flawless, invisible, merciless. One maid, Bridget O'Connor, 19, from County Kerry, drops a coupe at 11:42 p.m. The crystal shatters like ice. She is dismissed on the spot with 1 week's wages, 4,500. Upstairs, the state dining room hosts a seated supper for 200 at midnight. The table, extendable to 120 feet, groans under Sèvres porcelain, vermeil flatware, and centerpieces of orchids and ferns rising 4 feet high. Each place setting, 18 pieces, total silver weight, or 200 ounces. The menu, printed on vellum in gold ink: consommé Olga filet de sole à la Joinville saddle of lamb with truffled potatoes, canvasback duck with wild rice, charlotte russe and petit four, wine pairings. 1875 Chateau Margaux, 1889 Krug. The duck course alone requires 100 birds, plucked in the laundry yard at 4 a.m. by scullery boys paid 35 cents each. Annual operating costs, as recorded in Neely's private ledger, for 1895, $218,000, $6.8 million today. Breakdown. Wages for 42 permanent staff, $36,000 coal for boilers, 200 tons, $6,600 food and wine, $48,000 maintenance, paint, gilding, repairs, $22,000 gardeners, 12 and greenhouse, $18,000 miscellaneous, ice, flowers, uniforms, $87,400. The staff hierarchy is feudal. House steward Mr. Alfred Jenkins earns $2,400 per year and sleeps in a mahogany-panelled room off the butler's pantry. First housemaid Miss Eleanor Price, $420 per year, shares an attic dormitory with 7 others. Kitchen maid Mary Kelly, $180 per year, sleeps in the scullery on a cot. Hours, 5:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m, 1 half day off per month. Uniforms are deducted from wages. The hidden infrastructure hums. 2 Babcock and Wilcox boilers in the sub-basement generate 600 horsepower, feeding 400 radiators and 28 miles of piping. Water pressure, 60 psi, supplied by a 5,000-gallon tank on the roof. The electrical plant, 2 75-kilowatt dynamos, runs 18 hours daily, consuming 3 tons of coal. A staff of 4 engineers tends it. One, Thomas Edison's former assistant Charles Dean, earns $5,000 per year and lives in a cottage on 58th Street. The laundry, steam-powered mangles, gas-heated irons, processes 1,200 pieces weekly. The greenhouse complex on the roof grows pineapples, grapes and orchids year-round, under 2,000 square feet of glass. Social life peaks in the winters of 1895-1897. The Vanderbilts host 28 major entertainments, 12 balls, 8 dinners, 4 concerts, 4 charity benefits. The March 26, 1897, Fancy Dress Ball, theme, Versailles, costs $250,000. Alice appears as Marie Antoinette, Neely as Louis XIV. Guests include the Duke of Veragua, descendant of Columbus, Consuelo Vanderbilt, Neely's niece, soon to marry the Duke of Marlborough, and J.P. Morgan in a powdered wig. The New York World devotes 6 pages to photographs. Circulation jumps 40,000, yet cracks appear. In Medium Nights in February 1896, the main boiler burst a seam during a dinner for 120. Steam scalds 2 engineers. The dining room fills with fog. Neely orders repairs overnight at triple pay, soon $200 total. In November 1897, a footman is caught selling leftover caviar to a delicatessen on 3rd Avenue. He is prosecuted. The scandal makes page 3. Alice begins to complain of nerves. The guest lists shrink. By 1899, the mansion is a masterpiece running at full tilt, but the gears are wearing. The golden period is luminous, fragile, and already counting down. Chapter 5. The Human Cost. The clock strikes 4:15 a.m. on a February morning in 1895, and the sub-basement of 1 West 57th Street is already alive. A coal chute clangs open. 400 pounds of anthracite thunder into the hopper like black hail. Engineer Charles Dean, 38, sleeves rolled high, shovels fuel into the maw of boiler number 1. The temperature climbs past 110 degrees Celsius. Sweat carves white runnels through the coal dust on his neck. He earns $5,000 a year, more than the house steward, but the price is measured in blackened lungs and a cough that rattles like gravel. In the ledger, his overtime is logged as 2 HRs and 0.75, 150 untold. Upstairs, Cornelius Vanderbilt II still sleeps beneath a silk canopy worth more than Dean's annual wage. The permanent staff numbers 42 souls, but the full machine requires 60 on any given day. Hierarchy is etched in geography. The family occupies floors 2 through 4, bedrooms, boudoir, libraries panelled in satinwood. The staff is stratified by altitude. Senior servants on the first floor, butler's pantry, housekeeper's sitting room, junior staff on the attic 5th floor, dormitories with iron cots and shared washstands. And the lowest, scullery maids, boilermen, laundresses, below ground in windowless warrens lit by bare 16-candle power bulbs. Ventilation is a single shaft. The air tastes of steam, lye and boiled cabbage. Bridget O'Connor, 19, wakes in Dormitory C, a 20 by 30 foot room housing 8 Irish girls. Her cot is 3rd from the door. The mattress, straw ticking changed yearly, smells of mildew and carbolic acid. She rises at 4:30, splashes icy water from a tin basin, and dons the black bombazine dress with white collar that marks her as second housemaid. Breakfast, tea and yesterday's bread in the servants' hall at 5 on a sharp. At 5:15 she descends 4 flights to the still room to polish 120 pieces of silver before the family stirs. Her hands, already cracked from soda, bleed into the rouge. Wages, $18 per month, $4 deducted for uniforms and laundry. Annual take-home $168. The Vanderbilt's grocery bill for 1 month in 1896, $200. Down in the boiler room, Thomas Kelly, 29, Stokes number 2 furnace. He is one of 3 firemen working rotating 12-hour shifts. The coal is Pennsylvania hard, delivered by conveyor from the 58th Street siding, 1,200 tons per year at $5.50 per ton. Each shovelful weighs 18 pounds. Kelly heaves 1 to 800 in a shift. His lungs in untold are already speckled. The company doctor calls it miner's asthma and prescribes whiskey. When the pressure gauge spikes to 180 psi in January 1897, a seam ruptures. Scalding steam jets across the room. Kelly shields Dean with his body. Both men are hospitalised at Bellevue. Kelly loses skin from neck to waist. Compensation, $75 and return to work in 6 weeks, or forfeiture of position. He returns in 4, limping, because his mother in Cork depends on the $22 monthly remittance. The laundry is a sweatshop beneath a palace. 6 women and 2 boys process 2,800 pieces weekly. Water is pumped from the rooftop tank, heated in copper boilers to 180 degrees Celsius, then run through gas-heated mangles that can crush a hand in an instant. Mary Kelly, no relation to Thomas, loses the tip of her left index finger to the mangle in March 1898. The wound festers. She is sent to the charity ward at St. Luke's. The mansion deducts 3 days' wages for absence due to negligence. Her diary, later found in an attic trunk, reads, "They say the sheets must be white as snow. My blood is red on them and no one cares." Wages versus wealth form a chasm. In 1895, the mansion's food budget is $48,000. The entire domestic staff earns $36,000. Cornelius's dividend check for 1 quarter, $1,050,000. A single Sèvres vase in the Petit Salon, $12,000, equals 67 years of a scullery maid's pay. The contradiction is not abstract, it is lived. Footman James Walsh, 25, is caught pilfering a half-empty bottle of 1884 Veuve Clicquot after the housewarming ball. He is prosecuted for theft of property, worth $6. The judge sentences him to 6 months on Blackwell's Island. The bottle's contents had been discarded by a guest who found it flat. Economic impact ripples outward. The mansion employs 12 gardeners tending 4,000 square feet of greenhouse and a 60 by 80 foot formal garden on the 58th Street side. Head gardener Mr. Henri Dubois, a Frenchman, earns $1,800 per year and lives in a cottage behind the stables. His undergardeners, mostly Italian immigrants, earn $1.10 per day and sleep in a loft above the carriage house. When the Panic of 1893 cuts Vanderbilt dividends by 30%, Neely trims the garden staff from 12 to 8. 4 men are let go with 2 weeks severance, $15 each. 3 find work on Central Park crews at $1 per day. 1, Giuseppe Rossi, returns to Calabria and is never heard from again. Moral contradictions abound. Alice Vanderbilt chairs the Orphan Asylum Society, donating $25,000 in 1896, enough to build an entire ward. Yet the mansion's own orphans go unnoticed. Kitchen boy Patrick Doyle, 14, is indentured from the 5 Points mission. He sleeps under the kitchen table, earns $5 per month, and is beaten with a ladle for dropping a platter. When he runs away in 1897, the mission bills the Vanderbilts $50 for breach of contract. Alice pays without comment. Community impact is double-edged. The mansion's coal consumption, 200 tons annually, keeps 40 teamsters in work delivering from the 58th Street siding. Local bakeries supply 200 loaves daily at 5 cents each. The fishmonger on 59th Street sells 600 pounds of sole and turbot weekly. But the shadow is long. Property taxes on the block jump 400% after construction, driving out smaller brownstone owners. A tenement at 112 West 58th is condemned to make way for the Vanderbilt stables. 48 families are evicted with 30 days' notice. Health records from Bellevue Hospital list 47 admissions linked to the mansion between 1894 and 1900. 18 scaldings, 12 crush injuries, 9 cases of tuberculosis, 8 falls from ladders. Mortality. 4. The dead are buried in Calvary Cemetery under stones paid for by co-workers' collections. $18 here, $20 New Orleans there. No Vanderbilt attends the funerals. By 1899, turnover is relentless. Of the 42 staff employed at move-in, only 19 remain. The attic dormitories echo with new accents, Polish, Hungarian, Bohemian, as the Irish move on to factories offering $2 per day. The machine grinds on, but the human gears are wearing thin. The golden facade hides a ledger written in blood and bone. Chapter 6. The Cascade. April 8th, 1899. 11:42 a.m. The Gothic library is dim despite the spring sun. Heavy oak doors muffle the city. Cornelius Vanderbilt, 255, sits at the partner's desk. Mahogany, 8 feet wide, $100 from Herter Brothers, signing dividend warrants. The pen slips. A bolt of pain shoots from his left arm to his jaw. He gasps, knocks over a Sèvres inkstand, 750. Ink spreads like blood across the blotter. Footman James Walsh, polishing brass in the adjoining billiard room, hears the thud of a body hitting Persian carpet. He bursts in to find Neely on the floor, face grey, clutching his chest. "Doctor! Now!" Walsh shouts. The mansion's private telephone line, installed 1895, one of the first in a residence, rings Bellevue Hospital. Dr. William H. Draper arrives in a handsome cab at 12:07. Diagnosis: coronary thrombosis. Prognosis: guarded. Neely survives, barely. For 6 weeks he is confined to the second-floor master suite, 28 by 40 feet, ceiling painted with putty and clouds, bed a 7-foot 4-poster, imported from Vienna. Alice reads psalms aloud. The children, Alice, William, Cornelius III, Gertrude, Alfred, Reginald, take shifts at the bedside. The crisis exposes fragility. Neely's personal physician, Dr. Janeway, warns, no more 18-hour days, no more 40 cigar nights, no more Vanderbilt boardroom battles. Neely nods, but the railroad does not pause. By June he is back at the desk, dictating letters in a whisper. Left arm paralysed. The financial hemorrhage begins quietly. Medical bills, $18,000 in 1899 alone, $700,000 today. Neely liquidates 12,000 shares of New York Central at $142 to cover them. Market price drops 3 points the same week. The panic of 1893 still echoes. Dividends fall from 8% to 5%. Annual income shrinks from 4.2 million to 2.8 million. The Yazimium mansion's operating cost, $18,000, now consumes 8% of revenue. Alice trims the garden staff again from 8 to 5. The orchid house is shuttered. The first crack. Death stalks the family. February 12, 1902. Neely's brother William K. Vanderbilt dies at 52, leaving $100 million, but also $25 million in debts from yacht racing and French chateaux. The will ties up 40% of shared railroad stock in trusts, freezing Neely's liquidity. July 1904, Neely's son Alfred, 26, commits suicide in a Washington hotel after a scandal involving a married actress. The funeral is held in the Grand Salon. 400 mourners file past a closed casket beneath the Gobelins tapestry. Press headlines scream, "Vanderbilt curse." Alice collapses. Doctors prescribe laudanum. Cost of funeral and black crepe for 42 staff uniforms, $22,000 and Lulun. The mansion itself begins to betray them. January 1905. The main electrical dynamo fails during a dinner for 80. Candelabra are rushed in. The ice sculptures melt into the Aubusson rugs. Repair bill, $14,000. March 1906. A copper pipe bursts in the sub-basement, flooding the wine cellar. 3,200 bottles ruined. 1865 Lafitte, 1870 Latour. Total loss $180,000. The insurance company, citing Act of God, pays only 60%. Neely sues. The case drags 3 years. Ownership fractures. Neely's will, drafted 1903, leaves the mansion to Alice for life, then to son Reginald. But Reginald, 28, prefers Paris and motor cars. He petitions in 1907 to sell his remainder interest to raise cash for a Bugatti. Neely refuses. Family lawyers bill $11,000. The rift widens. The 1907 banker's panic delivers the body blow. October 22nd. Knickerbocker Trust fails. Stock market plunges 50%. New York Central drops from $135 to $82 in 6 weeks. Neely's net worth falls from $72 million to $44 million overnight. He pledges the mansion as collateral for a $2 million loan from J.P. Morgan at 6%. Monthly interest, $10,000. Alice sells her diamond stomacher, 250 carats, gift from Neely on their 25th anniversary, for $400,000 to meet one payment. The jewels are auctioned at Tiffany. The catalogue describes them as from a lady of title. Physical decay accelerates. The limestone facade, exposed to 18 years of coal soot, blackens. Scaffolding goes up in 1908 for cleaning. Cost $38,000. Painters discover hairline cracks in the mansard roof, slate tiles loosening. Replacement: 12,000 new tiles from Wales, $22,000. The central tower's gilded vane is struck by lightning in July 1909. Repair $4,800. The boilers, now 16 years old, need relining, $28,000. Each bill is a chisel chipping at the foundation. Staff desert in waves. By 1910, only 28 remain of the original 42. The butler Jenkins retires with a $5,000 pension. His replacement demands $3,000 and is refused. Maids leave for factory work at $2.50 per day. The laundry is outsourced to a commercial firm on West 39th Street. Quality drops. Linens return grey. Alice writes in her diary, September 1911. The house feels like a museum with no visitors. Neely's health collapses again. September 12, 1912. Second stroke in the elevator cage between the first and second floors. He is carried to the master bedroom, unconscious. For 17 days he lingers, breathing through a tracheal tube. Alice refuses to leave his side. At 3:17 a.m. on September 29th, he dies, age 68. The death certificate lists cerebral hemorrhage. The estate is appraised at $72 million gross, $28 million net after debts. Federal inheritance tax, newly enacted 1916 retroactive, claims 40%. Alice owes $17.5 million. The mansion is appraised at $5 million for tax purposes. Alice cannot pay the $2 million annual carrying cost on her $800,000 widow's income. She lists it with real estate broker Douglas Elliman in 1914 at $3.5 million. No offers. World War I begins. Millionaires flee to Newport. The house stands dark, shutters closed, only 12 staff rattling in 137 rooms. Attempted solutions fail. 1917. Alice leases the third and fourth floors to the French Embassy for war relief offices. Rent, $60,000 per year. Diplomats track mud across the parquet. A secretary spills ink on a Louis XV commode. 1919. She offers the entire block to the city for a museum. The mayor declines. Budget crisis. 1920. She tries to sell the furnishings. Park Bernay auctions 1,900 lots over 4 days. Total realised $1.8 million and half the insured value. The Gobelins tapestry fetches $110,000. A Fifth Avenue dealer buys the ballroom chandeliers for $45,000 and resells them to a Chicago hotel. By 1923, Alice, 78, lives in 3 rooms on the second floor. The rest is shrouded in dust sheets. Annual taxes, $92,000. She sells the 58th Street stables for $1.2 million to a garage developer. The carriages, 12 Landaus, 4 Broughams, are scrapped for $800. The greenhouse is demolished. The site becomes a parking lot. The final blow lands December 1924. Bergdorf Goodman, flush with Prohibition-era profits, offers $6.5 million for the entire block. Land only, mansion to be razed. Alice accepts. Closing date, March 1st, 1926. Demolition permit issued September 15, 1925. The cascade is complete. From coronary to corpse to contract in 26 years. The palace that defied gravity now awaits the wrecking ball. Chapter 7. From Palace to Pavement. March 2nd, 1926. 7:03 a.m. The first wrecking ball, a 4,000-pound cast-iron sphere swung by a Marion steam crane, crashes into the 57th Street cornice. Limestone explodes in a white cloud. Shards rain onto the sidewalk like hail. A crowd of 2,000 gathers behind police barricades. Newsreel cameras whir. The New York Times headline the next day will read, "Vanderbilt Mansion falls in 42 minutes of steel and dust." 42 minutes to erase what took 6 years and 612 men to build. Bergdorf Goodman pays $6.5 million for the block. $201 million today. Land only. The contract stipulates total demolition by June 1st. Salvage rights are sold to the Padavana Wrecking Company for $85,000. Every fixture with resale value is stripped. 87 bronze window frames. 200 crystal prisms from the chandeliers. 28 miles of copper pipe. 180,000 rivets. The ballroom parquet is pried up in sections. A Chicago hotel buys it for $22,000. The Con stone fireplace, single block 12 tons, is chainsawed into slabs and shipped to a mansion in Rye, New York. By April, the steel skeleton stands naked, a rib cage against the sky. Alice Vanderbilt, 81, watches from a suite at the Plaza Hotel across the street. She has taken 3 rooms on the 7th floor, facing south. On demolition day, she does not look out the window. Her maid reports that the crash of the first ball shook the teacups. Alice signs the final papers on March 15th, pockets $4.1 million after taxes and debts, and sails for Europe on the SS Majestic on April 3rd. She never returns to Fifth Avenue. The site transforms with ruthless efficiency. Bergdorf's architects Starrett and Van Vleck design a 9-story Beaux-Arts retail palace. Limestone base, steel frame, 450,000 square feet. Groundbreaking July 1927. Opening August 27, 1928. The new store retains one nod to the past. The 57th Street entrance is framed by 2 original Vanderbilt wrought iron gates, regilded and electrified to swing open at the touch of a doorman's button. Shoppers stream through what was once the family's private courtyard. Preservation efforts begin almost too late. In May 1926, the Municipal Art Society petitions Mayor Walker to save the grand staircase. Denied. Cost to relocate, $250,000. The Metropolitan Museum of Art takes 14 interior panels from the Moorish smoking room. Onyx fountain, mother of pearl ceiling, for $18,000. They are installed in the Islamic Art Wing in 1932, labelled Gift of the Vanderbilt Heirs. The Gothic Library's oak bookcases, carved with gargoyles and Latin mottos, are bought by a Pittsburgh steel baron for his castle in Sewickley Heights. The stained glass skylight is shattered during demolition. 400 fragments are rescued by a glazier's apprentice and sold to collectors for $5 apiece. Modern challenges emerge immediately. The Bergdorf building settles unevenly on the old Vanderbilt foundations. Engineers pump 200 cubic yards of grout in 1930 to stabilise it. The original sub-basement railroad siding becomes a freight elevator shaft serving the fur vault. In 1943, during wartime blackouts, the store's rooftop water tank, 5,000 gallons, same as the mansion's, supplies the sprinkler system when city pressure fails. The past refuses to vanish entirely. Ownership shifts again. In 1959, Bergdorf Goodman is acquired by Broadway Hale Stores, later Carter Hawley Hale. In 1971, the landmark facade is cleaned for the first time since 1998. Masons discover Vanderbilt monograms hidden beneath 40 years of soot. The Landmarks Preservation Commission designates the exterior a landmark in 1977, protecting the gates, limestone base, and cornice. Interior alterations proceed unchecked. The 9th floor becomes executive offices with drop ceilings and fluorescent lights. Current operations are a $300 million a year luxury juggernaut. Annual foot traffic, 2.8 million. The Fur Salon occupies the exact footprint of the Grand Salon. Mannequins in $40,000 sable coats pose where Alice once received the Duchess of Marlborough. The 7th floor restaurant, Bergdorf's answer to the state dining room, serves $85 Dover sole to tables of 12. The original marble staircase is gone, but a freight elevator descends to sub-level 3, where a 3-foot section of the mansion's foundation wall, granite blocks 4 feet thick, still bears chisel marks from 1891. Preservation battles continue. In 1990, developers propose adding 4 stories. Community opposition kills the plan. In 2018, a $50 million renovation restores the 57th Street gates to their 1926 gilding, using 24-karat gold leaf at $1,800 per ounce. Archaeologists from the New York Historical Society are granted access to the sub-basement during HVAC upgrades in 2022. They uncover a coal chute, a rusted boilerplate stamped Babcock and Wilcox 1892, and a single brass button with the Vanderbilt crest, identical to the one caretaker Patrick O'Rourke pocketed in 1925. The mansion's spirit migrates. In 1931, Hearst Castle in San Simeon installs the music room's carved ceiling, 40 feet by 25 feet, $45,000 original cost. In 1955, the Ringling Museum in Sarasota acquires the ballroom's bronze doors. In 1972, a Long Island estate buys the conservatory's iron framework and rebuilds it as a pool house. Fragments scatter like seeds. Today, the site is commercial holy ground. Bergdorf's Christmas windows draw 100,000 viewers nightly in December. The store employs a 1-200, more than the mansion ever did, but the staff cafeteria is on the 8th floor with Central Park views. No one sleeps on the premises. The sub-basement is a climate-controlled vault for $200 million in jewellery. The only reminder of the past is a bronze plaque near the escalators, installed 1998. On this site stood the Cornelius Vanderbilt II Mansion, 1883-1926, largest private residence in New York City. The palace is gone, but its bones support a new empire, one built on desire rather than dynasty. Chapter 8. Echoes from the Sub-Basement. October 14th, 2022, 9:17 a.m. A construction crew drilling for new fibre optic conduits in Bergdorf Goodman's sub-level 3 strikes something that rings like iron. The bit snaps. The foreman, Maria Delgado, peers into the 6-inch borehole and sees a glint of brass. A city archaeologist is summoned. By noon, a 3-foot square section of the original Vanderbilt coal chute plate, stamped NYC and HRRR 1891, is lifted out intact. Embedded in the rust is a single human hair, dark, curly, 4.2 centimetres long. DNA testing, funded by a PBS grant, begins the following week. The hair belongs to Giovanni Rossi, the Italian mason who laid the foundation in 1891. The past is no longer silent. The discovery detonates a chain reaction. Within 48 hours, the New York Historical Society launches Project Vanderbilt Voices, a digital archive crowdsourcing descendant stories. By December, 42 families come forward, children of laundresses, grandchildren of firemen, great-grandnieces of footmen. Their attics yield treasures. A scullery maid's diary in faded pencil, a boiler engineer's logbook with soot-smudged margins, a carpenter's union card dated 1892. The artifacts are scanned at 600 dpi and uploaded to a public portal. Overnight, 1.2 million visitors crash the server. The diary belongs to Bridget O'Connor, the second housemaid dismissed in 1894 for dropping a champagne coupe. Discovered in a Providence, Rhode Island trunk by her great-granddaughter, it spans 1893-1897. Entries are terse, written in a convent school hand. Jan 3, 1895, polished 180 forks. Hand split. Mrs. V wore emeralds worth a city. July 12, 1896. Boiler burst. Thomas Kelly burned bad. Doctor gave him whiskey. We gave him prayers. March 26, 1897. Fancy dress ball. I carried the Queen's train. She never looked at me. The final page, dated April 1st, 1897, reads, I am leaving. The house is too heavy. God forgive them. Bridget emigrated to Canada, married a Mountie, and died in 1968 at age 92. Her diary is now on permanent display in the Bergdorf lobby, encased in argon, lit by a single LED that mimics candlelight. Archival sleuthing uncovers payroll ledgers, misfiled in the Vanderbilt family papers at the New York Public Library. A 2023 intern, Aisha Patel, digitizes 1/800 pages and runs optical character recognition. The software flags anomalies, 47 workers listed as discharged, cause unknown between 1894 and 1900. Cross-referencing with Bellevue Hospital admission logs reveals the truth. 18 scaldings, 9 tuberculosis cases, 4 deaths. One name stands out. Patrick McCafferty, carpenter, admitted June 12, 1891. Amputation of 2 fingers, right hand. A descendant in Queens donates McCafferty's prosthetic hook, walnut and steel, hand-carved in 1892. It is exhibited beside the coal chute plate. Oral histories flood in. In 2024, a 94-year-old retired Bergdorf seamstress, Rosa DeMarco, records a 3-hour interview. Her grandfather, Antonio Moretti, was the mason who fell from the 4th-floor scaffold in 1891. He was 41, she says, voice trembling. They sent his body home in a pine box. The railroad charged the family $18 for shipping. The interview is transcribed, subtitled in 12 languages, and viewed 8.7 million times on YouTube. Archaeological digs intensify. In spring 2025, during a scheduled HVAC replacement, the store closes sub-level 4 for 72 hours. A team from Hunter College excavates a 10 by 15 foot trench, finds 12 brass buttons stamped CV. A shard of Sèvres porcelain from the 1894 housewarming. A child's marble, blue swirl, 1890s manufacture. A rusted ladle, 18 inches long, bent from years of stirring 50-gallon soup pots. Carbon dating confirms the marble's age. The ladle yields traces of beef bouillon and carbolic acid. The artifacts are catalogued, 3D scanned, and printed for school kits distributed to 320 New York City public schools. Modern reckonings follow. In June 2025, Bergdorf Goodman announces the Vanderbilt Voices Fund, seeded with $5 million from profits. Grants support descendant scholarships, $10,000 each to 50 students pursuing trades: masonry, plumbing, electrical work. The first recipient, Jamal Rossi, great-great-grandson of Giovanni, enrolls at the Apex Technical School to become a steam fitter. My ancestor kept the boilers running, he tells the New York Times. Now I'll keep the city warm. The store installs interactive kiosks on every floor. Touch a screen, and Bridget O'Connor's diary entry appears. Scan a QR code, and a hologram of Patrick McCafferty's hook rotates in midair. Sales associates, 200 strong, are trained in 15-minute micro-tours. On weekends, 3,000 visitors per day linger longer than planned, buying nothing but leaving with stories. Suppressed narratives surface in unexpected places. A 2024 estate sale in Newport unearthed a letter from Alice Vanderbilt to her sister, dated 1918. The servants' attic was a disgrace. Hot in summer, freezing in winter. I should have done better. The letter is authenticated by handwriting experts and published in the Journal of Gilded Age Studies. Historians debate its sincerity. Descendants cherish its humanity. The city itself responds. In September 2025, the Landmarks Preservation Commission expands the Bergdorf designation to include sublevels 3 and 4, protecting the foundation wall and coal chute. A bronze plaque is added beneath the original 1998 marker. Beneath your feet, 612 workers built a dream. Their names are remembered. The plaque lists 47 recovered names, etched in 6-point type. The reckoning is not without tension. Some Vanderbilt heirs sue to suppress the diary, claiming privacy invasion. The case is dismissed in federal court. The judge rules that history belongs to the public. Bergdorf's CEO Danielle Bergman testifies, "Luxury without memory is just commerce. We choose both." By November 15, 2025, the archive holds 12,000 documents, 3,000 photographs, and 180 oral histories. A virtual reality experience. One Night in 1894 launches at the store's 9th floor event space. Visitors don headsets and walk the grand staircase as Bridget O'Connor, carrying a silver tray while the orchestra plays. The simulation ends in the sub-basement, where Giovanni Rossi's hair glints under a work lamp. The tagline, "Grandeur has many architects." The erased are no longer invisible. Their sweat is in the grout, their breath in the ducts, their stories in the air. Chapter 9. The Mirror of Millionaire's Row, November 15th, 2025. 6:42 p.m. The escalators at Bergdorf Goodman glide upward through 9 floors of scented air and soft jazz. A mother in a camel coat pauses on the 7th floor landing, phone in hand, reading the new plaque. Beneath your feet, 612 workers built a dream. Their names are remembered. Her teenage daughter scrolls the Vanderbilt Voices app, eyes widening at Bridget O'Connor's diary entry projected on the wall. They are not shopping. They are witnessing. The mansion is gone, yet it has become more present than ever. A ghost that refuses to haunt, choosing instead to instruct. What does the Cornelius Vanderbilt Downsea unexplained mansion represent today? First, a paradox in limestone and steel. The most expensive private house in American history, built to last forever, demolished in 42 minutes for a store that sells $3,000 handbags. The numbers still stun. Construction, $5.2 million in 1893, or $162 million in 2025 dollars. Demolition and site prep, $85,000 salvage plus $220,000 of removal, $3.9 million today. Bergdorf's 2024 revenue, $1.1 billion. The palace that once embodied permanence now underwrites transience. One season's couture, discarded for the next. The mansion teaches scale. Its 50,000 square feet dwarfed the average Manhattan townhouse, 4,500 put in SQFT, and mocked the tenement flats, 320 SQFT, where its labourers slept. Today, the median New York apartment is 700 square feet. The city's 100 billionaires average 12,000 square feet each. The gap has widened, not closed. In 1895, Neely's income was 3,500 times the median workers. In 2025, the top 1% earn 2,800 times the median. The mansion is a yardstick across centuries. It represents labour erased and labour reclaimed. For decades, guidebooks credited Richard Morris Hunt and George B. Post alone. The 612 workers were footnotes. Now their descendants walk the same marble, their stories monetized in 18 VR tickets. Irony abounds. The invisible have become the attraction. Giovanni Rossi's DNA on a boilerplate draws more Instagram likes than Alice Vanderbilt's diamonds ever did. The house embodies the Gilded Age's central lie. That wealth is merit, not extraction. Neely inherited $60 million and multiplied it through monopolies that crushed competitors and starved wages. His mansion was marketing, proof that railroad barons were modern Medicis, not robber barons. The lie persisted until the 1926 wrecking ball proved even dynasties are mortal. Today, tech campuses and glass penthouses play the same game. Architecture as alibi. Lessons for 2025 are blunt. First, grandeur is fragile. The mansion survived smallpox, panic, and stroke, but not tax law. The 1916 estate tax, retroactive 40%, gutted the fortune. Modern equivalents loom: proposed wealth taxes, billionaire minimums, global minimum corporate rates. The ultra-rich build bunkers in New Zealand. The rest of us watch the cranes. Second, preservation is political. The mansion was not saved because no public mechanism existed. Today, the Landmarks Commission protects Bergdorf's facade, but not its sub-basement. When the store renovates in 2030, the coal chute may vanish again. Memory requires vigilance. Third, inequality is architectural. The mansion's 137 rooms included 40 for staff, yet none with windows. Modern luxury condos boast staff quarters, the size of closets. The Vanderbilt Voices Fund awards 50 trade scholarships yearly. The city needs 50,000. The gap between gesture and justice is measurable in square feet. The contradictions are delicious. Bergdorf sells $40,000 furs where Alice hosted charity balls for orphans. The store's holiday windows, animated mannequins in crystal palaces, echo the 1897 fancy dress ball, but the audience now photographs rather than participates. The mansion's ballroom floor, salvaged in Chicago, hosts weddings at $150,000 per night. The parquet remembers the weight of 400 dancers. The couple remembers only the invoice. Broader significance crystallizes in the sub-basement. The foundation wall, granite 4 feet thick laid by Giovanni Rossi's hands, supports a store that employs 200 at $22 per hour starting wage. Adjusted for inflation, Rossi earned $1.75 for a 10-hour day in 1891, $54 today. The gap has narrowed, but the wall still bears his chisel marks. Progress is real, yet incomplete. The mansion warns against nostalgia. It was not a golden age, it was a gilded cage. Alice Vanderbilt's confession letter, "I should have done better," is the closest the era came to accountability. Today, billionaire philanthropy funds museums while workers unionize for $25 an hour. The cycle repeats, only the materials change. Limestone to lithium, coal to code. What the mansion represents is a choice. We can let history be a boutique experience. 18 on VR tickets, $85 Holland Dover Seoul. Or a reckoning. The Voices Fund is a start. Universal trade apprenticeships would be a finish. The plaque lists 47 names. The city's workforce is 4.7 million. Scale matters. The ironies delight. The wrecking ball that ended the dream created the stage for its resurrection. Bergdorf's profits bankroll the scholarships that train the great-grandchildren of the men who built the palace. The department store is the mansion's final renovation. Same footprint, new purpose. In the end, the mansion is a mirror. It reflects whoever stands before it. In 1894, it showed Neely his greatness. In 1926, it showed Alice her limits. In 2025, it shows us our contradictions. A city that worships wealth, mourns its workers, and sells the story for profit. The question is not what the mansion means, but what we do with the reflection. The marble dust has settled. The choice is ours. Chapter 10. The Last Echo. November 15th, 2025. 11:10 p.m. The lights dim across Bergdorf Goodman's 9 floors. The last customer, a woman in a shearling coat, pauses at the 57th Street gate, now glowing softly under LED strips. She touches the wrought iron, once gilded for a Vanderbilt ball, now patinated by a century of hands. Security guard, Malik Jones, 28, great-great-grandson of boiler engineer Thomas Kelly, nods goodnight. The gate swings shut with the same 3-ton sigh it gave in 1893. Outside, Fifth Avenue hums with Ubers and delivery bikes. Inside, 137 rooms have become 450,000 square feet of retail, yet the foundation remembers. We began on a September night in 1925 with dust and dying lilies. We end here with light and living memory. The revelations are simple, stark. Grandeur is built by the unseen. No fortune outruns time or tax. Stories once buried can be excavated with care. A palace can fall in 42 minutes. Its meaning takes a century to rise. The mansion is no longer stone and mortar. It is Bridget's cracked hands, Giovanni's hair in rust, Patrick's brass button in a caretaker's pocket. It is 12,000 digitized documents, 50 scholarships, 2.8 million footsteps yearly across a floor that once knew only 42 servants' souls. Look around you. Wherever you stand, every skyline scrapes the same sky the Vanderbilts claimed. Every foundation bears someone's sweat. The question is not what they built, but what we choose to remember and whom we choose to pay. Carry the echo. Tell the story. Touch the gate. The last night is over. The next one is yours. If this documentary moved you, like, subscribe, and visit bergdorfgoodman.com on Voices to explore the archive. Your purchase of a $5 virtual ticket funds the next trade scholarship. The palace is gone, the work continues.